restrained. Was it a bicycle? What is wrong with my brain? Is it the end of me? No, I must still believe. So I'm still alive, you see. Heck yeah, now I'm on my way. But let's stay focused, there's still a job in hand that we must do. Cameras start to click, we know what creating something new. So go Marty and Sarah and Mark and Matt, Owen, Smitty, McCrilly and Jamie and Lane in the Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. Stop the clock, we're done, we're rolling. Sound the horn and sing that we are going. 27 hours, that is the time. So let's hop on the bus and let it shine, 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 shine. Say sha la 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 la, 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 sha la 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 la.
Good afternoon, folks. You are very welcome to Bandido Talks. Well, folks, we're breaking new ground today, aren't we? What's our show about today? In defense of the politicians. I know you might be thinking, I didn't think I would see the day where the Bandido would be defending the politicians. Some people might be very disappointed. Why is he defending politicians? What is the Bandido's agenda? Has he got the phone call? Has the Bandido got a phone call? Because now that he's hit 50 subscribers, maybe he got the phone call. And maybe the Bandido has taken the check. Maybe he has. Because, you know, when you break 50 subscribers here on YouTube, the phone starts to ring. You start to get all of these messages from anonymous folk. You don't know who they are. They say, Mr. Bandido, we notice that your channel is growing. You've now got the attention of all of these people on YouTube. And we're going to have to establish some boundaries about what you can talk about and what you can't talk about. And so some people might be thinking, the Bandido got the call. He got the call. Now I'm going to leave that up to your own judgment. Did the Bandido get the call? Is that why he's going to do an episode now defending politicians? Is he flip-flopping? Has the Bandido lost his marbles? Where's he going with this? This is what you may be thinking, quite legitimately. But you see, folks, for those of you who have been paying attention to the show, right from the beginning, when we started Bandido Talks, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, here on YouTube? If you have been paying attention, you will actually realize that even though we cover a lot of political stories, I'm not a political analyst. Disclaimer, you shouldn't even be watching the Bandido. For educational purposes, it's entertainment only. So I'm no political analyst. But we do cover a lot of politics here on the show. And if you have been paying attention to what it is that we talk about here on the show, then what you will realize is that I actually don't have a major beef with politicians. Even though you may see some of the shorts, some of the YouTube shorts, you may see some of the clips, some of those little segments that I'll snap out of the live show. And maybe you see me doing or engaging in a critical analysis of a politician or a political event, and you may think that I am highly critical of politicians in a negative sense, when in reality, if you're paying attention, I don't really have a beef with politicians. And we're going to flesh this out here today, because we do have our little series, The Bandido's Beef. And you would think that politicians would appear in that particular series. You would think Bandido's Beef would be just the perfect series to say my beef with politicians. But you'll notice that we haven't done a show like that, because I don't fundamentally have a beef with politicians. And this is the show where I'm going to explain this. Why am I going to explain it now? Well, you see, we've got all of this political turmoil. We did just have some of the Epstein files released. And now we've got this war with Iran. The US and Israel have combined together to attack Iran and topple the regime. So we've got all of this political stuff happening at the moment. And I am seeing a lot of people criticizing politicians, calling them this, that, and the other. You know, folks, all of the names under the sun. I'm seeing all of this. And now that we have a sufficient amount of controversy in the social media space, the Bandido thought, with his enormous platform of 50 subscribers here on YouTube, and don't forget, the Bandido has not just got 50 subscribers here on YouTube, he has 8 subscribers over on Rumble. Did I get the call? I'll leave that for you to decide. But with my enormous platform, we're going to get into this about politicians, because I'm seeing plenty of people criticizing politicians. We're going to figure out why. Why are they criticizing politicians? Why are you criticizing politicians? And are you not fully understanding what a politician is? Because I think if, like the Bandido, you fundamentally understand what a politician is, you shouldn't get pissed off. You shouldn't really be that critical to the point where you are literally turning purple through rage. That shouldn't be happening. And so we're going to lay this out on our show. But before we do, folks, feel free to like the live stream. Give us a little thumbs up if you like what it is that we're doing here on the show. Again, if you are joining us live, get down into the live chat. Any live chats or comments or insights, we will get to those at the end of the show if we have any. Same thing applies for all of you folk who are watching the show after the live event has concluded. Get down into the comments. Let me know what you think about everything that we will talk about. And then finally, folks, if in general you like what we do here at Bandido Talks, then I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Bandido Talks on YouTube. We are live Monday through to Wednesday. 5 p.m. Irish time here on the tube. 3 live shows every week here on YouTube. If 3 live shows is not enough for you, use the scrolling black banner below and head over to Rumble after this live show. We also do 3 live shows over on Rumble as well. Monday through to Wednesday. At 6 p.m. Irish time over on Rumble. So whenever we finish here on YouTube, the Bandido heads straight over to Rumble. We do another live show over there, different topics. So you have 6 live shows in total between YouTube and Rumble. 3 on YouTube, 3 on Rumble. Subscribe here on YouTube, head over to Rumble, subscribe over on Rumble. You'll be notified of all of our upcoming live shows, all of our video uploads. To keep you in the loop. To keep the lessons flowing your direction from the Bandido. So anyway, with all of that out of the road, folks, let us get into this afternoon show. In defense of politicians. Now, I know a lot of you who may be watching this. A lot of you may not like politicians, especially at the elite level. You may have a local politician that you quite like because he or she does something for you. But there's a good chance that a whole bunch of people that may be watching this really don't like the politicians that govern countries. The elite politicians in your country. There's a good chance you don't like them for various reasons. Now, when it comes to politicians, folks, here's what we need to do. We need to think of politicians in exactly the same way that we think of a grizzly bear. Why a grizzly bear? Well, I could pick any animal that's a dangerous animal to humans. I'm going to use a grizzly bear because I have a soft spot for the old bears. I did read a book many years ago diving into all the different species of bears. So I thought, if I have to use an example here, it's going to be a grizzly bear. Okay. So you need to think of politicians like grizzly bears. Now, do I hate grizzly bears? No. I don't hate grizzly bears. If I was out in the wild and a grizzly bear was hungry, might it attack and eat me? Yes. Indeed it might. It's done it too. Grizzly bears have killed and eaten alive many humans throughout human history. And this will continue to happen. When people go out into nature, into habitats where grizzly bears frequent and hunt and sleep and mate and have territory, when you go out into natural habitats where there are grizzly bears, there is a chance that if you're not prepared, you could get attacked and killed by a grizzly bear. I know this, and you know this. Now, I don't hate grizzly bears. Even though I know that if I go out into a grizzly bear's habitat, I know that that bear will potentially kill me. I know this. So I know that bears, with their psychology, they are bigger creatures than us. They are omnivores. They are capable hunters. They like meat. So I know this. I know that if I'm presented before a grizzly bear, that it might think about killing me, eating me alive, and ending my life. And even though I know that, I don't hate grizzly bears. Why do I not hate grizzly bears? Why do I not hate grizzly bears even though I know that if that grizzly bear was given a chance, it might kill and eat me? You would think that that would qualify a grizzly bear for hate from my perspective. You would think that I would hate grizzly bears because I know that they might kill and eat me if I go out into their habitat. So why do I not hate grizzly bears? Why do I not hate lions? Why do I not hate hyenas? Why do I not hate, I don't know, crocodiles? All of these creatures have the psychology whereby if they are hungry, they will kill and eat me. And they have no moral dilemma whatsoever. They will think that it's perfectly justified in the mind of a grizzly bear. It's perfectly justified to walk right up to me, wrestle me to the ground, kill me, and eat me. In the mind of a grizzly bear, that's totally justified. That grizzly bear doesn't walk away from my dead corpse and say, oh, but Jesus, I shouldn't have killed the Bandido. I shouldn't have killed him. And that grizzly bear doesn't go to the nearest fucking chapel or church and kneel down before the altar and repent for its sins. No, the grizzly bear doesn't do that. The grizzly bear feels like it's completely justified. It was hungry or pissed off at me, and it decided to kill and eat me. And it has no moral dilemma at all to deal with. Now its belly's full of the Bandido, and the Bandido's dead. So, I don't hate grizzly bears. I don't hate hyenas or any of these carnivorous creatures or omnivorous creatures that could kill and eat me. And you have to ask yourself, folks, why do I not hate these creatures? Because you would think, knowing consciously that these things, if they are given a chance, will potentially kill and eat me, you would think I would hate them. Yet I don't. Why? You must ask yourself, why? Well, let me tell you why. It all comes down, or could be summarized, in one word. There's one word that I could use to summarize why I don't hate grizzly bears, even though I know that they could kill and eat me. Do you know what that word is? Expectations. Let me repeat that. Expectations. That is the reason why I don't hate grizzly bears. The reason why I don't hate grizzly bears is because I know what a grizzly bear is. I know what it stands for. I know roughly what its agenda is in this life. And so I appropriately, essentially allocate my expectations to different humans and creatures on this planet. I will set expectations here for certain people, and I will set expectations for certain animals way down here. It depends who I'm dealing with. So throughout life, depending on what animal or human I'm dealing with, I will have varying expectations of all of these creatures that I'm interacting with. When I leave the house in the morning and the cat that I have adopted is at the front door crying for a cat stick, do I try to reason with that cat? Do I try to say, well, hold on, cat, you haven't done anything for me. I'm always feeding you, but you never do anything for me. You just come to the door, the front door, every morning, and you sit there expecting me to feed you, yet you give me nothing in return. Do you think I engage in that kind of a dialogue with my cat? Fuck no. Why do I not do that? Because I have very low expectations for my cat. It is a cat. It has cat psychology. It does not understand the English language. It thinks it's perfectly justified. It's perfectly justifiable behavior from the cat's perspective to sit at my front door and expect me to feed it, even though it gives me fuck all in return. That's cat psychology. And it's perfectly justifiable in the mind of that cat. So do you think I get pissed off at my cat? Do you think I get into an argument with my cat? No! And the reason why is because I have allocated to my cat appropriate expectations that the cat can live up to. There's no point in me putting the expectations here for my cat, expecting my cat to be able to engage in a thoughtful, critical analysis of its behavior, Holy fuck, folks, of course it can't do that. The cat doesn't have the psychological machinery to carry out that kind of a discussion. So what do? I move my expectations from here down to here. I give my cat expectations that it can live up to. Because you see, whenever I appropriately allocate expectations to my cat, it means I don't get pissed off. If I have unrealistic expectations of my cat, and my cat, day after day, constantly violates the expectations that I've set for it, that's going to piss me off continually. And so what do? Instead of just maintaining the same high expectations of my cat, I lower them. I lower the expectations of my cat to the point where my cat can live up to those very low expectations. It's the same with a grizzly bear. I allocate the appropriate amount of expectation to a grizzly bear. I know what a grizzly bear is. Its ambition in life is to fuck some other grizzly bear, to eat, and to sleep, and to monitor its territory and look after its cubs. Those are some of the broad objectives of a grizzly bear. Again, I can't communicate with a grizzly bear. It does not understand English, unfortunately. Also, grizzly bears have grizzly bear psychology. So there's no point in me setting expectations here for a grizzly bear, expecting that whenever I cross paths with a grizzly bear, it's going to be nice and accommodating to me. Yes, whenever I go out into Yellowstone National Park, yes, whenever I go out there and I cross paths with a grizzly bear, yes, we're going to have a very thought-provoking discussion, and I'm going to convince the bear not to eat me. That's where I'm going to place my expectations. I'm going to have a very in-depth conversation with the bear. Fuck me, folks. Of course that's not where I'm going to set my expectations. I am fully aware that bears might eat me. And so what do? I stay the fuck away from grizzly bears. I watch them on the television or on my phone. I don't go out into nature. I don't go out into their habitat. Why? Because I have allocated appropriate expectations to them. I know what they are. I know what they are capable of. I know what they stand for. I know what may potentially happen if I try to engage with a grizzly bear. If I don't allocate the appropriate expectations to the grizzly bear, then what might happen? I might think that I'm going to have a very thought-provoking discussion with this grizzly bear in Yellowstone National Park. And then all of a sudden, I'm pinned to the ground and it's gnawing on my hole. Now, I might then say, hold on, Mr. Bear. That wasn't part of the agreement. I had expectations for you that you were going to engage in a thoughtful conversation. We were going to talk this through, Mr. Bear. No, the bear continues to gnaw on my hole. And before I know it, it's eating me alive. And then sooner or later, the lights go out. So to make sure that I don't get fucked over by the grizzly bear, what do? I allocate appropriate expectations for a grizzly bear. I don't expect the grizzly bear to pause and reflect on his interaction with the Bandido that he's going to have. You know, I don't think the bear is thinking in that way. And I don't expect, the key word being expect, I don't expect the bear to think in that way because it has bear psychology. Why would I think the bear is going to behave any differently to any other bear? It isn't. And if I go around like an idiot thinking that, oh, well, the bear is going to have a discussion with me because we're both mammals, well, good luck with that discussion. You're probably going to end up dead or disabled by this grizzly bear. So, how do I avoid irritation at my cat in the morning? I avoid irritation at my cat in the morning by allocating appropriate expectations that that cat can live up to. Because if I lower the bar, if I lower the expectations for my cat, It means I don't get irritated because I'm not expecting it to be able to do something that it's not capable of. And so as a result, the cat isn't going to violate the expectations because I've allocated them at the appropriate level. It's the same with a grizzly bear. I'm under no illusions what a grizzly bear is. I know it's a big, dangerous mammal that can't speak English and has bear psychology. So I don't go into Yellowstone National Park thinking the grizzly bears are going to be my friend. I don't do that. I don't have that expectation that they are going to be my friend, that they are going to reason with me, that we're going to get into a conversation, that I'm going to be able to convince them not to kill me. No, I lower the expectations down here, and I accept the fact that they are a grizzly bear. They have grizzly bear psychology, and if I want to maintain the integrity of my tissue, my cellular tissue, if I don't want to incur tissue damage, then I am going to set the appropriate expectations, meaning I will keep my fucking distance from grizzly bears. I won't expect them to behave any differently to what their biology suggests. And so as a result, what ends up happening, folks? Do I get pissed off at my cat? No. Do I get pissed off at grizzly bears? No. Do I hate my cat? No. Even though my cat is a wee manipulator. It goes on the window every morning and whines in the window. And I give it its cat stick. It does fuck all for me. In fact, you know what it does sometimes? Not only do I feed my cat, I give it the odd cat stick here and there. Not only does it do that, but sometimes it sneaks into the back garden and it shits and pisses on its own doorstep. So not only does it not do anything for me, and not only do I feed it, but it literally shits on its doorstep. Now, why do I not get pissed off or resentful about my cat? Why do I not hate my cat? Because I have allocated to my cat appropriate expectations that it can live up to. I expect my cat to complain and manipulate and whine and look for food. I expect that my cat isn't going to do anything for me. I expect that my cat is going to try and shit in the backyard. Even though I will literally, when I see it getting ready to shit in the backyard, I will run out and scare it away. But let's say I'm not there. I am not under any illusions. I expect it to do cat things. And cat things involve shitting in flower beds. All right. So I have expectations that the cat can live up to. And that ensures that I don't get overly pissed off. It's the same with a grizzly bear. I give it expectations that it can live up to. I'm not under any illusion that it's anything other than a grizzly bear with grizzly bear psychology. So as a result, why am I saying all this? I'm saying all of this because I don't hate my cat. I don't hate grizzly bears. I don't hate crocodiles, hyenas, lions, tigers. I don't hate any of these creatures that could kill and eat me. And the reason why I don't hate them is because I have correctly placed expectations in the right way. I've allocated appropriate expectations to these animals. I have essentially given them expectations that they can live up to. I'm not setting unrealistic expectations for them. Because what happens when you set unrealistic expectations for someone and they fall short of your expectations? Yes, what is it that happens? You get pissed off. Because the person didn't live up to the expectations that you set for them. And so what should you do? If you're interacting with someone and you get feedback that your expectations for that person are too high, if you've got too high expectations for someone and they routinely fall short of those expectations, what should you do? I'll tell you what you should do. You should recalibrate. You should go through a process of recalibration, meaning that you adjust the expectations from here to here. don't have such high expectations. Because if you keep the bar really high, think of it like high jumping at the Olympics or at the World Championships. If someone isn't capable of jumping over the high bar here, then you shouldn't have the high bar here. They can't jump over it. They're going to keep falling short of the high bar. You should move the high bar from here to here. You should move it to a location that they can actually jump up over the high bar. You shouldn't routinely be placing that little pole at a height that you know they can't get up over. They clearly don't have the ability to leap that high. And so all that's going to happen is you're going to continue to get pissed off because you're their trainer. Let's say you're their coach. If you as the coach continually set the bar too high and they keep falling short of the jump, well then you need to adjust the height of the bar, you idiot. You don't just keep the bar high and have your student become demoralized, and then you don't get irritated at your student because they can't jump at that height. No, what you do is you adjust the bar to a location where it's challenging, but they can make the jump. And then you work from there. So you can think of this, folks, in terms of the high jump, the bar that's set for the high jump. If you are dealing with a human and that human gives you feedback that they are routinely coming in underneath expectations that you've set for them. In other words, if you're dealing with a human and you've set the high bar here and they are routinely missing the jump, they can't make the jump, then you need to lower the bar so that they can make the jump. Meaning that you need to lower your expectations. Now, why am I saying this? How does this relate to politicians? And why am I doing this episode in defense of politicians? It's for this exact reason, folks. I don't hate politicians. I don't hate politicians any more than I hate grizzly bears or my fucking cat. Why? Why do I not hate politicians? Because I know what they are. This isn't a surprise to me. I have allocated appropriate expectations to politicians. And so when politicians do things like, let's go to war with Iran, am I pissed off? No. When politicians do things like, let's raise the taxes, do I get pissed off? No. Why do I not get pissed off? Because me personally, I have allocated to politicians expectations that they can live up to. What you folk do, what all of you do, is you have the high bar here for your politicians. And you know where that high bar should be? It should be down here. That's where it should be. The reason why you're getting pissed off at politicians is because you are expecting them to do something different. You're expecting them to break the mold. And then what happens? They tell you what you want to hear, and then what do they go and do? They violate your expectations. In other words, they come in underneath your expectations. They don't meet your expectations. God forbid they never come and exceed your expectations. So not only do they not exceed your expectations, most of the time, politicians don't even meet your expectations. Most of the time, politicians lie and they do self-interested things. That doesn't make them bad people. That makes you an idiot for not having the appropriate expectations for the politicians. And so what you need to do is you need to recalibrate how you look at politicians. You need to realize that politicians are like grizzly bears. That's what they are like. You can't reason with them. You can't talk with them. The grizzly bear is self-interested. If it wants to eat you, it will. And the politicians are also self-interested. And if they want to fuck you over, They will. It is absolutely no different. And so what you need to do is you need to understand what it is that you're dealing with. What a politician is. A politician is someone who has climbed a dominance hierarchy. Dominance hierarchies are extremely competitive. Why? Why are dominance hierarchies extremely competitive? Why is it extremely competitive as you ascend the dominance hierarchy in politics? The reason why it's so competitive is because there's a lot to gain by climbing the dominance hierarchy. There are a lot of resources to be acquired by politicians. Money, status, power. These are all resources that everyone wants. And the further you climb up the dominance hierarchy, the more competitive it gets and the bigger the prize at the end of the process. And so politicians are people who have climbed right up to the top of the dominance hierarchy. And guess what, folks? You see, when you're at the top of the dominance hierarchy, it is extremely competitive. There are a lot of resources, very valuable resources to be gained, and there's also a lot to lose. You could get killed being a politician. You could be assassinated if you piss the wrong people off. So there's a lot to gain being a politician, but there's a lot to lose. And so when you're at the top of the political hierarchy, as a prime minister or a president, no matter what it is that you think of these people right now, these people are in extremely competitive circumstances with a lot on the line. And when you have a lot on the line, folks, you're fucking ruthless. That's what you are. You're like a grizzly bear that's hungry. What happens when you go to Yellowstone National Park as the bears have just come out of hibernation? Or better still, as the bears are preparing for hibernation and they need to put on fat. In other words, in the bear's mind, there is a very, very high priority item on its list of things to do. And you know what that high priority item is? Is to find as much high calorie food as possible so that they can build up their fat reserves for winter. So if you go to Yellowstone National Park just before bears are going to dock off for hibernation and they are in this critical phase where they need to get the calories in, if you go to Yellowstone National Park and you come across a hungry grizzly bear just about a month before hibernation, what the fuck do you think's going to happen? Do you think that bear's going to walk up to you and give you a high five, you fucking numbskull? Of course it isn't. It's going to eat you. And because you haven't got the right expectations for what happens when a bear meets a human, you die. You get eaten alive. It is no different with politicians. Politicians are at the top of the political hierarchy. There are a whole bunch of extremely valuable resources, money, power, influence, status, at the top of that hierarchy that all of these political figures are jostling for. It is super competitive. And not only is there a lot to gain, there is a lot to lose when you're at the top of a dominance hierarchy. A fucking lot to lose. In other words, when you're at the top of the political hierarchy, you're like a hungry grizzly bear. That's what you're like. And if you're a hungry grizzly bear, do you think as a hungry grizzly bear, you're going to do things that are self-interested? Do you think that grizzly bear cares that you die so that it can get the necessary calories for hibernation? Do you think the grizzly bear gives a shit about you? No, it doesn't. I've already talked about that. The grizzly bear isn't going fucking to church to sit down with a priest for confession. Oh, hello, Father. Well, you see, out in Yellowstone today, I come across a human. I came across this human and, this human was very friendly, but, Father, I was a bit hungry and I ate the human. No, that's not what the grizzly bear does. The grizzly bear doesn't go to confession with Father Schmo. That doesn't happen. The grizzly bear is self-interested. Of course it is. If the grizzly bear is hungry and it's coming up to hibernation time, it's going to eat you alive. Politicians are in extremely competitive circumstances with a lot to gain and a lot to lose. They are going to be ruthless, like a grizzly bear. The grizzly bear will be ruthless, the politicians will be ruthless. Why the fuck do you think the politician is working for you? Why do you have that expectation? Why are you setting expectations as, the politicians work for me? That's where my expectation is. The politicians should be working on behalf of the citizens. You idiot. You don't understand how the world works. And you haven't got your expectations allocated in the right way. You haven't got the high bar set at the right height. You've got your expectations too high. The high bar or the little pole, whatever you want to call it, it's too high. And every time you vote, and every time you think, this politician's going to do something different, every time you think that, what does the politician do? Instead of trying to jump up over the high bar, he scurries in underneath it with all of your money and he pisses off up over the horizon. And you're left there holding a bag of shite. And you're then thinking, oh, but he said he was going to work on behalf of the people. You're an idiot. You haven't got your expectations properly thought out here. You've got the high bar too high. And the politicians are just literally walking underneath the high bar, turning around, laughing at you, literally laughing at you, and then they coast off. They sort of roll off into the distance. Rich, wealthy, with their security teams around them, and you're left holding a bag of shite. You need, folks, to understand that expectations are one of the, having your expectations in the wrong place, that's going to be one of the driving factors behind a lot of your irritation in life. If you're irritated at your fucking cat, if you're irritated at a work colleague, if you're irritated at a politician, there's a good chance, it's not the only reason, but there's a good chance that if you are irritated at someone or something, then the problem is actually not really the person. It's actually you. You haven't got your expectations set appropriately. And so as a result, you're thinking that people are going to be able to leap up over the high bar where you have it set. And they frequently don't make the jump. And that is increasingly pissing you off. And it leads to resentment and hate and frustration. What you need to do is you need to think of politicians like grizzly bears preparing for hibernation. That is what you need to, that's where your expectations should be with politicians. It doesn't make politicians bad people. Just because a grizzly bear attacks and kills you, that doesn't make the grizzly bear a bad bear. It doesn't make it a bad creature. It's just doing what's in its best interest. The grizzly bear is attacking and killing you because it's probably hungry. Or it's defending its cubs. It's doing what it thinks is right. It's being ruthless. Because there's a lot on the line for a grizzly bear, if it's hungry or if it has cubs. The grizzly bear may have invested a whole bunch of time and energy and attention into those cubs, and it doesn't want you to come along and poach them or kill them. It can't take the chance. It doesn't know what your motivations are. And so it attacks you and it kills you. That doesn't make the grizzly bear bad. The problem is, you haven't got your expectations in the right place for that grizzly bear, for what you expect from that grizzly bear. It's the same with the politicians. And this is why I'm defending them here, in a sense. I'm basically saying, you shouldn't be hating politicians. You should be looking at them for what they are. They are human beings in an extremely competitive circumstance or situation. They are at the top of the political dominance hierarchy. They have climbed the political dominance hierarchy. They are now sitting at the top of this hierarchy. And it's extremely competitive up there. There are a lot of resources to be gained. There are a lot of resources to be lost. There's a lot on the line. And when you are in extremely competitive circumstances, like a politician at the top of a dominance hierarchy, or a grizzly bear out in Yellowstone National Park, who is quite hungry and preparing for hibernation. If you're like a grizzly bear or a politician, then you know what you do? You be ruthless. Because there's a lot on the line. Grizzly bears have a lot on the line. Politicians have a lot on the line. So they are ruthless. And they're going to tell you what you want to hear so that they can secure your vote and so that they can use you to their own advantage. That's fine. That doesn't make them bad people. Because if you are paying attention and you have the correct expectations set at the right level for politicians, you ain't going to get pissed off. Do you think I was pissed off when Keir Starmer's government raised the taxes? Do you think that honestly pissed me off? No, it didn't. And I'll tell you why it didn't. Because I didn't have the expectation that they were going to lower taxes. I didn't have the expectation that they were even going to keep taxes the same, at the same level. I didn't have that expectation. My expectation for Keir Starmer and his government was, Keir Starmer is going to do what is in the best interest of, you guessed it, Keir Starmer. That's what he's going to do. It doesn't make him a bad person. We are all self-interested, folks. We just deny it. That's what we do. We pretend like we're all Mother Teresa or Holy Joe. That's what we all do. We all like to give the impression that none of us are scheming, that we all do things completely honourably for no self-interested motive. That's bullshit. We are all doing things for self-interested motivation or motives. We all have self-interested motivation when it comes to our behaviour in this life. People deny it. People say, no, I just did it for the good of my heart. No, you didn't. You did it because you knew that someone was watching you, or you know that in the future someone might find out about your charitable deed, and then you're going to get a whole bunch of what? Status and credibility. Nobody does anything for no reason. Everyone is self-interested. Some are more self-interested than others, that's true. And politicians are also self-interested. The thing about politicians, though, is they are operating in a more competitive environment than you. You watching this, you're a peon, you're a peasant. Just like me. We aren't at the top of a political dominance hierarchy. We haven't climbed to the top of a political dominance hierarchy. We aren't in circumstances that are that competitive. Believe me, folks, if you ever do find yourself in circumstances that competitive, you will find that you will become just as ruthless as the politicians. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a fully functional human. Of course, you should become ruthless when it's highly competitive, because there's a lot to lose. If you're going around, I'll just do this and sure, there won't be any big consequences. Boom, you're fucked. If that's your mentality, I'll just do this here, and everybody will row in behind me, and we'll all get into this together, and it'll be big kumbaya society. If that's what you're thinking, then you are going to get fucked. Everybody is ruthless at the top of a dominance hierarchy. They are scheming, and they are trying to engineer circumstances whereby they gain the most money, power, influence, and status, and they lose the least amount of money, power, influence, and status. That's what they're trying to do. That's what politicians are literally trying to do. They are trying to get as much benefit when it comes to money, power, influence, and status, and they're trying to lose as little of those four things as possible. And they're in an extremely competitive environment. Why are you putting your expectations here for these people? You wouldn't put your expectations here for a grizzly bear that's hungry and it's about to enter hibernation. You wouldn't do that unless you're a retard. And there are some retards out there who have been killed by grizzly bears because they think that the grizzly bears are their friends. All right, great. Well, they aren't living anymore, they are dead. Read into that what you wish. You shouldn't be putting your expectations here for a grizzly bear out in Yellowstone National Park. You should adjust your expectations, because if you expect a grizzly bear to be your friend, you are probably going to be disabled or dead. There's a good chance that one of those two things are going to happen. So you want to make sure that your expectations are in the right place. It's the same with politicians, and I'm going to keep repeating myself, folks. This doesn't make politicians bad people. Just because politicians are self-interested, just because they are schemers, just because they do things because it benefits them, doesn't make them bad people. It makes you an idiot for believing that they are something that they aren't. It would be exactly the same as you thinking a grizzly bear is something that it isn't, and then the grizzly bear attacks you and fucks you over. You shouldn't be surprised if you willingly go out and try to hug a wild grizzly bear. You shouldn't be surprised if it sinks its teeth into your neck. If you go out there and think that the politicians are working on behalf of you, first and foremost, you shouldn't be surprised when you get fucked over and you're left holding a bag of shite. That shouldn't surprise you. But you see, it only surprises people who have their expectations in the wrong place. It's all about expectations, folks. I don't get angry at politicians. I don't hate them. I don't hate Keir Starmer. I don't hate Donald Trump. I don't hate Kamala Harris. I don't hate Joe Biden. I don't hate any of these people. Maybe there was a time in my life where I did hate them when I was younger, because I didn't understand how to appropriately allocate expectations to these people. And it would be the same with other people in my own life. I've got pissed off at family members. Heck, my own father, who died over a month ago. I mean, there's been many occasions throughout my own life where I got pissed off at him. Why did I get pissed off at him? Was it because he was a bad man or a bad human? No. It's because I had unrealistic expectations of him. I put him up here when he should have been more like here. That's where he should be. That's where my expectations should have been. And you see, whenever I adjusted my expectations for my own father, for my own mother, for everyone in my own life, all of a sudden, I don't get pissed off very often at these people. You see, all my friends, all my family, very seldom do I get pissed off at these people. Why? Because I have the appropriate expectations for them. I allocate expectations to them that I know they can live up to. Because when they live up to those expectations, I don't get pissed off. And you see, if I set the expectations at the right level and they actually exceed those expectations, then I'm actually pretty happy. It's beautiful whenever that happens. If I have expectations set here for someone and they actually come over my expectations, they exceed my expectations, they actually go more than halfway, then that's a great feeling, isn't it? Not only do you not feel pissed off, you feel actually like you've gained something significant from the interaction. And so very seldom do I get pissed off at friends or family. Every now and again it'll happen, and I have to remind myself. Why did you get pissed off there? I know why you got pissed off. You got pissed off because you expected too much from this person. You had your expectations here. You had the high bar too high, and they didn't make the jump. So what do? I recalibrate my expectations. And I say, okay, I had the expectations too high. They then came in underneath my expectations. That pissed me off because they didn't meet my demands, essentially. And because they didn't meet my demands, now I need to recalibrate. I need to say, okay, what can this person do? Can this person make the high jump if I put the bar here? Yes, they can. And if they start to routinely leap over this high bar with a lot of space, well then great. Now they are exceeding expectation. And that makes me very happy when that happens. It's the same with politicians. I don't have my expectations for politicians up here. I don't have them there. I have them far lower. I know politicians are under a lot of pressure. I know that they live in a world that's unbelievably competitive. We can't even imagine how competitive it is to be a head of state, to be a president, to be a prime minister. The amount of work and competition that you must be feeling. Yes, there are big rewards, but there are also big costs. There's a lot on the line. The stakes are very high. That's a super competitive environment. And I know that when you're in a super competitive environment, what happens? You're ruthless. You have to be. If you aren't ruthless in a super competitive environment, what happens? You get out competed. And now you incur all of the costs that comes with losing. And so you have no option but to be ruthless. You have no option but to be like a hungry grizzly bear that's preparing for hibernation. That grizzly bear needs to be ruthless. When it has the opportunity to kill another creature, to eat its flesh and consume calories and assist in its fat storage, when that grizzly bear has that opportunity, it should take it. That doesn't make grizzly bears bad animals or bad creatures or creatures that have skewed morals. Of course it doesn't. And it's no different with politicians. When you have a politician in a super competitive environment, they will be ruthless, just like this grizzly bear. So you shouldn't be expecting the politician to be putting you, dipshit, first and foremost. You're not at the center of their universe. Surprise, surprise, the politicians themselves, they are at the center of their own universe. That's the person who's at the center of their universe, themselves, not you. And you should recalibrate, and you should adjust your expectations appropriately. And you know what happens when you adjust those expectations? Just like I adjust my expectations for my own fucking cat. You know what happens? You stop getting so pissed off. And then you know what you do? You free up space in your own mind. And you start to say, you know what? I'm going to stop directing hatred and frustration and anger towards politicians. And I'm going to channel all of the energy that comes with hatred and anger and frustration, and I'm going to channel that somewhere else to enhance my own existence. And once you have the expectations set appropriately, you see when the politicians raise taxes or they go into war or they do something stupid that pisses you off, or that should piss you off, guess what happens? You don't get pissed off. Or you certainly reduce significantly your degree of irritation. And now you can just look at them for what they are. You can look at their decisions and their behavior for what they are. And you can get busy directing precious time, energy, and attention elsewhere to make your life better. That's the idea. So that's my defense of the politicians. They aren't bad people. Now, maybe some politicians do very bad things. Bad things. Things that we wouldn't do. But you know what? Just because they lie, and just because they are self-interested, and just because they are ruthless, doesn't make them bad people. Those things don't make politicians bad people. It just means you need to understand what a politician is and what it is that they are presenting. What's the value proposition that they are offering you? Once you have your expectations appropriately set, once you set the high bar in the right way, there's pretty much no problem. So anyway, I don't think there's anybody in the live chat. Let me just check and see. Let me do a quick check here. Is there anybody in the live chat? I was keeping an eye on my phone, and it doesn't look like there is. Let me get this main screen back up. Nobody in the live chat, and so with that, folks, that draws our show to a close here on YouTube. Again, feel free to like the stream, get down into the comments section, let me know what you thought about everything that we talked about, and then finally, folks, feel free to subscribe to Bandido Talks here on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow with our final show of the week, 5 p.m. Irish time here on YouTube, I hope you can join me then. I'm going to head over to Rumble right now. We've got a completely different show on a completely different topic over on Rumble. I'm going to be live over there in just a few minutes. Use the scrolling black banner below to direct yourself over to Rumble. If I don't see you over on Rumble, I will see you here tomorrow afternoon, 5 p.m. Irish time. Until then, folks, enjoy the rest of your day. And it is over and out from the Bandido.